Zdravo, my friends, and welcome to the city center of Belgrade. I'm here at the largest Orthodox cathedral in the Balkans, St. Sava Cathedral, just on the west side of Belgrade. Today we're doing pros and cons of living in this Balkan capital. So if you want to hear about why it's awesome to live in Belgrade, come along, let's do it. Pro number one for living in Belgrade is its central location. This city is like right in the heart of the Balkans, and if you were to get on a bus from here, you could go to pretty much, I don't know, like 5 to 10 beautiful cities within 3 to 4 hours. It's a really nice place to be, and if you're flying from here, the airport is pretty close to the city. The flights here are a little expensive, but not too bad, and you can pretty much hop on a plane maybe 2 or 3 hours and go to the entirety of Europe, near Turkey, the north of Africa. So if you're a big traveler, like, good spot to be. Pro number two, if you do move here to Belgrade, is that each neighborhood here is very unique and has very different experiences. You can live in this area where I am, Vračar or Dorčol, which is outside of the city center, and they have that cool like little cafe feel, old buildings, and it's very pretty. You can live in Stari Grad, which is the old city center. It's got the regal buildings, it has the history, it has that kind of big city, kind of old European vibe. You can live in Novi Belgrade, which is like everything's new, well, newer, and then they also have the old Yugoslav building, so if you really want that experience, that's possible. And lastly, you can live in Zemun, which is kind of a small little quaint town just about 25 minutes outside the city center here in Belgrade by bus. And it's really cool. It looks like an old little German city. It's on the Danube, super pretty. So if you want like aggressive Yugoslav, you can have it. If you want cool cafes, cool bar city, you can have it. If you want old city, you can have it. And if you want little quaint stuff, you can also have it too. It's very diverse here in Belgrade, which makes it such a nice city to find an apartment in. Number three pro for me is definitely the food. Belgrade is dotted with these places called kafanas, which are basically typical cafes where you can get delicious Serbian eats. The portion sizes are massive. The food is always good. You always get a lot of grilled meats, you get fries, you get salad. It's really, really nice. And typically the price is good. You're not gonna pay more than maybe $8 to $10 for a plate, certainly for 2 people. The portions here are out of control. I do not know how Serbian people aren't fat, but they are not. I might be getting fat, but that is just, it requires some walking through the beautiful cities of Belgrade. So food, absolutely great. Number 4, I will just give a shout out to the Serbian people. Everyone here is so nice, so friendly. They have that Balkan hospitality where, you know, that you have to really argue to pay, you know, like no one here will let you pay for anything. And everyone's very welcoming. They're a beer drinking culture, so everyone here loves going out and hanging out. And the good news is that everybody literally under 40 years old speaks amazing English. I have really had 0 interactions with anybody that was not like at a decent level in English, and the majority of people in university here, like they're fluent. It's the most fluent country I've been to outside of Albania. It's very, very impressive what they can do here. So getting around here is super easy. Maybe the taxi drivers don't speak English, but other than that, it's great. And the hospitality here, fantastic. Dobro, dobro. The next one I'll discuss is the price. I think the price here in Belgrade is very fair for a big European capital. This city is very much akin to any big European city that you would find, but probably half the price. It may be the most expensive city in the Balkans, and it's certainly the most expensive city in Serbia, but the deals you get here are really good. So like for my apartment, for example, I'm paying like around 400 euros, which is over market value. Food, you're never really gonna pay more than 10 euros for a dinner to go out. Beers are under €2.50 everywhere you go, and generally attractions here are quite cheap. So if you're looking at a place to kind of get a good bang for your buck, Belgrade, Serbia has the big city vibe, but for an affordable price. The last little thing I'll say about the pros, if you love to go out and you love nightlife, this city is unbelievable. Technically, there's the most bars and restaurants per capita in any European city here in Belgrade. If you go around pretty much anywhere, you'll see people outside eating, drinking, enjoying the night. And then here, especially for partying, they have basically a thing called a splav, which is a kind of like a houseboat, but then they put a club on top of it. So if you like any kind of music, they have something for you. If you want to go do turbo folk, which is the traditional kind of party music of Serbia, you can do that. If you want great house music, great rock and roll, great metal clubs, you can really find anything here, which makes Belgrade such a vibrant place to meet people and go out and enjoy a very unique city for the people who like to stay out quite late. We're now at spot number 2, and I'm ready to tell you about the cons of living in this Balkan capital. The first thing is that they're gonna get you on the Airbnbs. Airbnbs are way over market value, maybe 2 to 3 times what the actual locals here pay. It's very hard to get an apartment here for less than 6 months at any sort of rate that makes sense. So my apartment, even though it's in a good area, you know, I'm probably paying like 100 euros over market value. So be aware that you may not get the best deal in the world from a long-term stay here, unless you find like a proper contract and a Serbian agent to do it for you. The second con for being here is that it's certainly the most expensive city in Serbia, and it's one of the most expensive cities in the Balkans, besides the ones you probably find in Croatia and Slovenia. So if you're looking for a place that's cheap, like cheap, this is definitely not the one for you. You can go to Novi Sad in the north, you can go to Subotica, you can go to Niš. Those are all cheaper options, especially for housing. Here in Belgrade, obviously people are coming from all around the world. They want to live here. It's an up and coming city with a lot of modern things happening. So because of that, the relative price towards Serbia is actually a pretty high in comparison. So it's not Western Europe, but it's not Tirana, Albania either. Number 3, and always an important one for me, is the weather. The weather here is brutally hot in the summer and really quite cold in the winter. You definitely get some snow here. So I don't know how people stay here in the summer without air conditioning. It can get up to 40 degrees Celsius. It was a really hot summer, but it can be brutal. A lot of people escape to the coast. They go to Montenegro, they go to Croatia to kind of avoid this. So the city kind of empties out in the summer a little bit. It cools down in the night, but it's hot. Get ready to sweat. Number 4, and I'm just gonna be brutally honest, the taxis in this country are awful. So they have taxi apps, but they don't use Uber. They use something called Cargo, which I think is maybe like a local app. It works well, they don't have enough cars. And they also have Yandex Taxi from Russia. Again, they work well, but they just don't have enough cars. So getting around the city, you can take the bus. The bus is actually really expensive. It's 150 dinars, which is about $1.50. The average salary here is only like $400 to $500 a month. So it's like way overpriced. So many of the locals don't even pay for the buses. They do work, the buses are fine. But if you're out late night, if you're in the city drinking or something, the taxis are there's just not enough. So you're probably gonna have to schlep it home somehow and not in a taxi, which is bad. If you want to take the local taxis, sometimes they'll rip you off. That's certainly a possibility. I've heard people get mugged in them every once in a while. That can certainly happen. And then lastly, they're just not the best, you know? I don't like taxis. I don't like feeling unsafe in a taxi. So yeah, they need to figure it out. They need to figure it out. My last thing that I'll say, it's not necessarily a negative, but it's something to know, is that Serbia is a lot less diverse feeling than other Balkan countries. A lot of the restaurants are just Serbian restaurants. A lot of the things to do are just very Serbian. They have their very own style, but it doesn't feel like the most diverse place to live. Sometimes it feels like you're very limited with especially food and some of the experiences. Like in the southern part of the Balkans, you get that really mix between like kind of Islamic culture from the Ottoman Empire and of course the Serbian culture and the other kind of nations around it. But here it just feels very European. So it's not nearly as mixed as like a Paris or a Berlin or a Milan. This is like proper Europe stuff. So some people really like that. For me, it's nice, but it can be a little boring at times. So from beautiful Knez Mihailova, the central street in Belgrade, I say thank you for watching. I hope you found my list helpful, and there will be lots more Serbia content coming up, so stay tuned. Hvala guys, and živeli from Belgrade.